John, you need to unmute yourself.
I am unmuted. I think someone accidentally muted me. Okay, everyone, we are going to get started. Let me stop sharing for a moment. I really appreciate everyone joining today. We're at a very crucial time in world history. It's the end of what will probably go down in history as one of the most horrendous years in history, and also as a real time of change. We have 1.6 billion people whose livelihoods have been disrupted. We have 1.6 million people who have died of coronavirus. We have 100 million that have been pushed into extreme poverty. I was on a DevX World Call last week at which the founder of DevX, Raj Kumar, said, this is a year that has probably set back development by a decade. And he said it's also been a year that has probably advanced the transformation of development by a decade. Just today, for example, before this call, I was already on 2 other calls on localization. One facilitated by Meg Kinghorn, who's on this call today. Meg, I hope we'll get to hear from you later. And then one with Oxfam and CRS on localization. Last week we had DevX World and the UN conference, UN Forum on Humanitarian, which also completely focused on localization. So it's a real time when our issues are at the fore. It's a time when repressive governments have gotten more repressive, when terrorists like Boko Haram have just kidnapped 200 boys in the Katsina state of Nigeria. All of us our hearts are with the families who have been so devastated by these kinds of actions. So this month, as we reflect on the end of this year and looking towards what breakthroughs we can cause in 2021, that is what today's call is all about. Let me jump to our agenda. Share, bingo. So I hope you're seeing the agenda. As usual, I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction to our movement, hopefully in ways that I can focus on some of the things that we can use in today's call. We'll have an update on the tools that were launched last month and we'll look at the use of these tools. We'll look at a big event that's coming up next month. And we'll look at a whole new campaign that Sarah's going to introduce us to, 11 Days of Activism for CLD. Then we're going to really get to the heart of today's call, which is a real co-creation of 2021, reflecting on the accomplishments that we've had in each of our different parts of this movement. And during 2020, as well as what breakthroughs we want to cause. And then we'll close out with just reminders of the next event. So with that, I'm going to remind us of what we're about here. We're about getting the world to recognize that all development is local, to drive forward our 5 goals of voice and agency for women, youth, and marginalized groups, for adequate community finance, at least 20% of public resources in the hands of local communities. Achieving good local governance in terms of transparency, responsiveness, capabilities of our local governance systems to deliver quality public services, which is a major commitment of the SDGs, and having there be resilient communities, having the world recognize that resilience is a community attribute. We're continuing to grow in our international movement. There are 3 more groups that are actually in the process of joining. I don't have their logos yet. And we have more and more chapters, and we'll be hearing from our regional coordinators, from our chapter leads around the world during this call. We have a theory of change with 2 big thrusts: national engagement to push for decentralization and devolution, as well as building partnerships for facilitating community-led development and really demonstrating what healthy, productive, resilient, self-reliant communities looks like. And if we can push those 2 things together and converge them, then we think the world has a chance at the SDGs. And without that, we think it doesn't. So I want to point to some of our tools here that we've been using. We have our glorious website. That website has a place for introducing people to the movement and for subscribing to our newsletter, the Shift the Power newsletter, which is up to more than 5,000 people now. We have pages for each country chapter. We really want to flesh those out because I think that's where donors and governments will be looking, is what's happening in the countries. We have a Facebook page. We have a Twitter channel. We have a LinkedIn group that so far only has 46 members. For those of you on LinkedIn, this is something you can use. As of yesterday, we have our own YouTube channel. And get rid of that. So going back to here, our website, and you'll be hearing more about this, set a new record for page views 2 days in a row. We went 50% over our best ever days. And that was mainly due to the launch of these new tools that we'll hear about in just a moment. So, oops, let me go back. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And I want to hand it, did it stop sharing? Yes, I want to hand it over to Gunjan to talk about our tools, how they're being used, and what's next. Gunjan?
Yes, thank you, John, and welcome everyone. Greetings for whatever time of the day it is in your part of the world. I'm very excited about the new tools. Last month at the MCLD call, we had launched the CLD assessment tool. For those of you who were on that call, you would have heard me say how this has been a really collaborative effort. And despite the pandemic, despite all the craziness of the year, people kept working on this collaborative research, many of the products of which will be coming forward in 2021 January. But what we did release was a tool that allows us, all of us, to look at our own programs, either through self, peer, or participatory reviews, and to see where are we in our journey for community-led development. We are all committed to development that puts people first, but how are we doing it? And what more can we do about it? And how do we create a common language, a common vocabulary around community-led development? So this tool was launched on November 24th, I think, was our last call. And it has so far been down, it's available in English and French. Many of you have already downloaded it. I know that because we can see that we've had over 100 direct downloads. It's also been circulated in organizations We know that it's been circulated within organizations like USAID, within divisions in the World Bank. So we hope that this is going to create conversations around community-led development, around what programs should look like and what donors should also be supporting. I also want to say that we have increasingly in the last few days since the release of the tool heard from our members and different organizations who have reiterated their commitment to apply the tool, to use the tool, both to provide us feedback so that we can, it is a collaborative tool and it will continue to be developed and improved as we use it. It is an evolving tool. In 2021, in fact, we plan to do events with our different national chapters at country levels to make sure that the tool reflects their understanding of community-led development, and we can all arrive at this common understanding of what CLD is and where we should go. But I want to invite two organizations who have reiterated or shared with us their commitment to at least pilot or try and use the tool. So if I can invite Lisa Arnaud, who is the CEO of the Hunger Project.
Great, thanks, Gunjan. Well, at the Hunger Project, we are super proud to be part of this collaborative research. I want to first congratulate all of the collaborators in the research. I know you spent untold hours in a very challenging year and really going through like a fearless exploration of each of our own organizations' development philosophies and our program methodologies. So that could not have been easy in this year. So I just really want to say thank you and congratulations to the research team for that. And then to Gunjan's point, I do want to say that the Hunger Project's commitment to continuous learning means that we will be rolling out this assessment tool in the Hunger Project in early 2021. We also remain really committed to adopting further learnings that come out of this research group to advance our most precious shared mission that we all hold, which is the widespread adoption of development that puts people first. So I'm excited to see the assessment tool being used internally at the Hunger Project, and I really invite all partners in the movement to do the same. Back to you, Gunjan.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We're really looking forward to see what we learn as the tool is rolled out in the Hunger Project. I now want to invite Andrea Reed Davis from Outreach International to share with us some of their plans.
Yeah, thank you, Gunjan. So we at Outreach International are equally proud and grateful for the development of the tool, and that MCLD and the scoping group especially have made this development a priority, as Lisa shared, in the midst of such challenge. To be able to put these important tools and things first is pretty remarkable. And so we are also very excited to utilize this tool that prioritizes the same objectives that we hold most dear in the work that we do at Outreach. And we do plan to pilot it in a few of our locations early in 2021. We're still in the midst of gaining full buy-in from some of our stakeholders, but once we have a good grasp of the resources that it will take to implement, we hope that we'll be using it org-wide in all of our countries within next year even. But again, I'm hopeful that, especially with the overall simplicity of the tool, but yet still the adaptability of allowing any and all stakeholders to contribute their inputs, that it may be possible for us to use it in all of our locations earlier than we really planned. But in the coming months, we're also excited to be a part of the translation efforts, actually. I think that I had heard that you all are planning to have a Spanish version in the near future, so we're eager to have access to that. But if our plans go as intended, we will be contributing to translated versions in Tagalog and hopefully maybe Nepali and Oriya out of India eventually, maybe even Quechua in Bolivia eventually as well. So big plans, and I'm probably overcommitting at this point because we're still in the early stages, but we're really excited about the use of this tool and so grateful to be a part of this network of great organizations committed to utilizing it. So thanks.
Thanks so much, Andrea. That's fantastic. And on that note, I'm actually going to invite anyone who wants to use the tool within their organizations to if there's any kind of support that you require from us, please let us know. We are developing resources. We will be doing workshops around this to help organizations roll out, but also like Outreach is doing, to invite you to see if there are translations of the tool that you would like to, that you are doing internally, to share them out so that more and more organizations can use it and we can create this common vocabulary. We are going to have it in English, French, and Spanish to begin with, and then we hope this co-creation process continues and people share translations as they are carried out in countries. So, John, back to you. Or do you want me to speak to 27 January now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so in continuation with the research work and the products that we are rolling out, some of that Lisa mentioned when she spoke about it. So over the last year and a half, we have been, some of you would have heard us talking about over 400 evaluation reports and how we've been looking at 176 programs across 65 countries to understand what is it that we are doing when we say we are doing community-led development. What is the current nature of community-led development? How does it change with context? What is it that we are doing well or that we are reporting on? And what is it that we need to report on better? And what is it that we need to do better? We now have to report the state of CLD programming report, as well as a new tool, which is for evaluations, because time and again during the course of this research, we've heard from monitoring, evaluation, research, and learning specialists in different organizations about the challenges of evaluating CLD programs. We've heard from a lot of our smaller partners about, how they're not sure that the evaluations that they do are rigorous enough to be considered. In fact, when we asked them for evaluations, that was one of the challenges that they faced, as well as from country teams, even in bigger organizations. So we have a very simple 13-question quality appraisal tool that is going to be released again in English, French, and Spanish, that will be available for assessing the quality of CLD evaluations. So whether you are sending it out, whether you are commissioning it, external evaluation, whether you're doing it internally, just by simply using that 13-question tool, you can ensure that the evaluation report is of good quality. And all of this is going to be launched on 27 January. So please save the date, mark your calendars. 27 January 2021 is going to be the event, which is called Local Means Local, New Tools for Strengthening Community-Led Development. It is an event that we are doing in partnership with IDEAL and USAID. And it's going to be almost a 3-hour event with a plenary session in the morning, where we are going to share the report and the results from it. And then 2 short workshops. One on using the CLD assessment tool that Lisa and Andrea spoke about and about rolling it out. So there's going to be a short workshop on using that tool, and then there's going to be a short workshop on using the evaluation quality appraisal tool. So the event is going to start at 8 a.m. Eastern time, and you will get all the details in your inbox, and we're going to have a page around it. But we're very excited. And please save the date.
Wonderful, Gunjan. Okay, I'd like to now hand it to my colleague, Sarah Bulbul, who is going to introduce this campaign that we're going to be doing very soon. And I really beg, encourage, urge everyone to bring their creativity and leadership to this campaign. Sarah? And then you just tell me when you want me to put up your slide.
Thank you, John. If you can pull it up now, that would be great.
Okay.
While you do that, I'll just introduce myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah, a research intern with the Hunger Project and the Movement. I won't take up too much time because this is already such an exciting and important session. But I just wanted to flag that we at the Movement see this January as the month for community-led development. We recently found out that January 28th is Global Community Engagement Day. And as you just heard, on January 27th, we have an event with the USAID. In tandem with these events, we've decided to run the 11 days of activism for community-led development based on the 11 characteristics of CLD that the scoping group identified during their research. The campaign goes hand in hand with the collaborative research that we're launching with USAID. So starting on January 18th, we're going to be sharing blog posts, tweets, and infographics with information about each characteristic of CLD that you can see on the slide right now. We're asking for your input because we'd like to make the 11 days as collaborative as possible. We would love contributions that are written as blog posts, filmed as short videos, or even a quote that you could send around one of the characteristics. So please spread the word if you're interested, or if you know a thought leader, somebody in the field, or anybody who has words that they'd be willing to share about their experiences with one of the 11 characteristics. Please email me at the address on the slide by December 22nd if you're interested, and then send me your pieces by January 10th. We know this is a busy time, but we're really excited about strengthening this global movement together, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Great, thanks so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
So yes, who knew that we had a day? When we were on a call the other day, planning the 11 days campaign, and somebody said, well, I wonder if there's a community day, and they Googled it while we were on the phone, and they discovered there is one, Global Community Engagement Day, on the 28th. So that'll be the end of the campaign. This seems to have bubbled up in Australia, but a lot of people use it to encourage local businesses to engage with communities, local governments to engage with communities. So who knew we had this day, but we're going to use this day to the max. Okay, now, oh, somebody is not muted and getting feedback, so please mute. Great, thank you. So this main purpose of today's call is for us to co-create. We really want to co-create 2021 to be a breakthrough year. And as I wrote in the invitation, there's really two parts to this. First part is symbolized by this little icon here. What were achievements of 2020 that we can build on? What are you particularly proud of or excited about in your part of the movement, the part of the movement that you brought your leadership to, whether it's inside the movement or with other groups working on issues of localization and community empowerment and mobilization? And then what do you see as targeted breakthroughs you want to cause in 2021? And this call is being recorded. Hopefully folks are taking notes as well. But ideally, in a co-creation process, you all get in a room and you get little blocks and you pile them up, or flip charts or something. We don't have that opportunity today, but we are able to listen to each other and to brainstorm together. So I also want to mention some of the domains for transformative action that we can be thinking about. One thing that we've all seen this year is the extraordinary power of community leadership that has stepped forward to protect and support their communities during this time of COVID-19. We've learned a lot about the power dynamics at the community level. We've learned a lot about local governance and grassroots civil society. We've learned a lot about how to engage with central government, with parliaments and ministries. We've learned a lot, and I think the funders have learned a lot about both bilateral and multilateral contributions, as well as philanthropic contributions. We've seen a lot of new policies come out in those areas. A lot of us have been using the media to help us with our work, mass media, including community radio, and social media. Some of us have been engaging with the private sector. There's been a lot of engagement recently with think tanks, both in the North and the Global South, with academia. Oh, I put the private sector twice. I guess it's been on my mind. So those are some of the domains that we can speak about. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing so we can all see each other. And I want, if anyone wants to raise their hand or speak up, so you can see there's this little thing on your screen that I guess there isn't a little raise hand because this isn't a webinar. So if anyone wants to speak.
The raise hand is on the participants. So people need to click on participants and they can raise hand. There is a raise hand button there.
Great. It's just us hosts that can't raise hands. So if anyone would like to raise their hand and be called on and kick us off, who has the courage to kick us off in this conversation? If not, I'll start putting people on the spot. Great, Arthur. If you want to unmute and speak right up.
Thank you very much, John. Hello, everyone. My name is Arthur Nkosi. I'm the country director for Core Africa in Malawi, and also the lead for community-led development for the Malawi chapter. It's a pleasure to be here. And one thing that I'd like to share with the group is myself and my co-lead, Gertrude, who is also with the Hunger Project here in Malawi, have engaged with the mass media to do a radio session where we're going to have the general public calling in to ask questions about the vaccine that has just now been launched globally. Malawi is a very small country in sub-Saharan Africa, and we have just received notification that the vaccine is now out, and Malawi will be looking into bringing that vaccine. So for community-led development, we felt that as a chapter, it'll be important to get out to the general public so that we can give an opportunity to people in the rural as well as the urban to call in and ask questions about what is the vaccine, what benefits will it have, side effects, why the vaccine, and so on, looking at the numbers that we have here in Malawi. So I'm very, very excited about what we're doing as a chapter in Malawi to be able to be a part of sharing what's happening globally with COVID-19 especially. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Oh, Arthur, that's terrific. Who's going to be your sort of authoritative answerer on that call?
John, currently we have engaged with the Ministry of Health because we had to go through a number of authorizations. We couldn't necessarily do it as a chapter by ourselves. So Gertrude has been very helpful in supporting this process. Now that we have the approval, the first step will be to allow for people to call in and ask all the various questions. Then we will be having a follow-up TV show where we're going to have selected doctors as well as members from the national COVID-19 response team that has been voted in by the president and the government to be able to answer those questions. So we'll be sharing that information here very soon.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's great. Congratulations. Deanna, I see your hand up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. I'm happy to be here in this moment where we can co-create. And I want to share it's 7, but 5 actions that it's going to, that are going to be strategical for the movement in Mexico. We work in 5 areas. The first one is we're going to design projects to design mechanisms for identifying active citizenship and citizenship participation in the elections next year that are going to happen in Mexico. And the second one is that we want to, what we want to define is what do we mean when we talk about participation based on community-led development. And based on that definition, we want to, sorry, I think my internet is unstable, but I hope that you can hear me.
Maybe if you turn off your camera, it will help. It's right, your sound was breaking up a little.
Great.
Thanks, Diana.
Okay. The second point is we're going to focus on the plans for economic reactivation after all the COVID process that we're living. We also want to create and to focus on the programs based on territorial and ecological approach that are having trouble in Mexico, particularly with indigenous communities. The fourth one is we want to follow up on the criteria for the prioritization of the vaccines in Mexico. And the fifth one is some proposals to develop proposals for candidates in the next election. And related to public participation. And we also will having, we're trying to follow the commitments on the 2030 agenda in Mexico, because we're going to present a national voluntary report next year. And of course, we are going to follow up with all the tools that the global movement have been created with the 11 characteristics. And we're going to have a sense-making workshop.
Wonderful, Deanna. That sounds like a year worth doing. Congratulations, that's terrific. I don't see any other hands up yet. Please raise your hand if you want to contribute to this conversation. And I will warn you, I will start calling on people. Who wants to participate?
Okay. This is Pascal.
Hey, Pascal.
Yeah. Hi, John. Hi, everyone. First of all, I would say that in addition to the countries where the Hunger Project is already operating in West Africa, that is to say Ghana, Burkina Faso, and Senegal, each of those countries could come with the set priorities for the country. First, I will talk from Benin perspective and from the regional perspective. From Benin perspective, the chapter would like to focus on governance through three main areas. First, documentation of good practices to support municipal councillors and for capacity development for communities to make sure that they could really be involved on social accountability requests, to be sure that, to make sure that we have good governance. And the second part of the involvement of our chapter will be what we have called contract for governance. That is social accountability in practice. If we look at the way it's going on now in terms of governance, municipal council come without any contract, any mandate in terms of we are accountable to this tells the community. And we want them to set for that, to have this happen. And the third aspect, for this aspect, we would like to use the CLD tools, those we have just talked about. And the third aspect is to monitor how those two first aspects come in link with the Sustainable Development Goals implementation. And we trust that those two aspects will foster the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. That is the first priority for the Benin CLD chapter. At the global, at the West Africa level, we have planned for 2020 a regional dialogue among West Africa civil society organization at the West Africa region level. And due to pandemic and other constraints, we didn't really make it happen. And we want focus on this during 2021. And the third aspect, we will continue supporting new chapter, particularly Sierra Leone and Guinea. I would not forget Nigeria and Sierra Leone and Togo, who are already moving forward with the chapter. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Pascal. That sounds like a very full plate, and particularly, I think similar to what Deanna shared about really how do these things come together for the SDGs. I think that'll give us some very powerful voice on the global stage when we can really show that with these tools. Okay, who is next? Oh, I see a hand up. Margot.
Hi, my name's Margot Day from Accountability Council. I just wanted to say at the start first a huge thank you to everybody in the movement for welcoming us to the movement in 2020. And we're so excited to be a member and work alongside you and learn from you. So that's our maybe most exciting thing to just mention reflecting back, but I will point to one other piece of work from 2020 that is indicative of strong community-led development. We work in partnership with a coalition of indigenous organizations in Myanmar that were put at risk by a top-down development project from UNDP. That was a conservation project to set aside land for conservation that risked their rights to return, their land rights, refugee rights, etc. And those organizations put together a counter proposal that was community led and said, this is how you should protect the land instead, and are bringing that to UNDP and are now in dialogue to say, let's do it from a community approach instead of a top-down approach. So really just wanted to amplify their amazing work, and it's such a privilege to be able to work alongside them. And then just looking forward to 2021, we just continue to be excited about learning from the community organizations in this movement. And if there are any communities represented among the movement who identify risks from international development projects, we'd be interested in learning more and seeing if there's a way to work in partnership to mitigate those or seek accountability from those. But just again, we're just delighted to learn as much as we can from this community and wanted to thank everybody.
Great, Margot, that's terrific. There's several, the woman who really set up everything in Indonesia is now in Myanmar. I'd love to connect your team with her. Chi Rivera from, I'm sorry, not Indonesia, the Philippines. She really set it up, CLD in the Philippines. Do you know Chi?
I'm not sure, although my colleagues might, but I would love to be introduced just to be sure. Yeah, that would be
great. Wonderful. And then Meg Kinghorn is on this call, was just facilitating, and one of her panelists was sitting in Myanmar, I think, while she was on. Okay, this is getting exciting. Thanks so much. And I'm just, what your organization and the other social accountability people that you're connected with have brought to us this year, as you heard, is already starting to affect people's programs. So that's really great. Okay, I don't see any other hands up. Oh, I do, Annette.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to say that, John, your second meeting that you joined this morning with CRS and Oxfam was really inspiring to me because it called for the need of local actors to be more involved in INGO projects. And one thing they recommended is to re-examine the turf over there. You know, who are the usual suspects who always get the contracts? Do a span of, you know, scan over the area, look for new partners. I'm working more from an on the ground perspective, even though I'm all the way near Washington, D.C. It's weird, but it's the way it is. And I've been working with a small NGO for more than a year. We are still in the process of trying to form a Congolese chapter of the movement, and that is progressing very slowly. But in the meantime, what I've been able to do recently is get another sign-on from another partner serving our model village. And so these are two local actors who would traditionally compete with one another. And that's something else that was mentioned on this last call, competition between the local actors, and how do we get around it? Well, one thing that people do agree on in the Congo is the need to come together in the interests of the Congolese people, in the interest of advancing the country. I've talked to each organization about that and they wholeheartedly agree. So I'm going to try to, you know, facilitate as best I can and get this into a successful result, because our newest player is coming with funding and purpose. So, those are, it's a synopsis of both what has happened in 2020 and what could happen in 2021.
That's terrific. Thanks so much, Annette. That's really, that call was really, there was a fellow there, you probably heard Ahmed from Somalia, and he talked a lot about transforming the way donors work. And that was to really focus on direct funding, direct multi-year funding of local partners, going beyond the approach of subcontracting, so that local organizations can really build their own capacity themselves. You know, that they can invest in the kinds of systems they need for sustainable action. And similarly, last week on the big UN summit, there was a lot of talk about streamlining processes so that both on the funding side and on the reporting results side, the outcome harvesting side, there could be really streamlined processes that facilitate local organizations directly participating in these big efforts. And that, I think, is something we really can all work on in 2021. It could be such a game changer. And they were mentioning particularly that pool funds, where the donors, rather than each trying to manage their own bits of money, pool their funds and then streamline access to those pooled funds by local actors. If we could see a big shift towards that in 2021, that would be a dramatic game changer, because so much depends on the funding models. And every single meeting comes around to that big central challenge. Okay, whose hand is going up next?
Dr. Rebecca had her hand up, John.
Oh, I don't see it now. Dr. Rebecca. Now I see it. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. We in Nigeria, we are very excited to join this group. Although we have a challenge of registration, but we will not let the registration process to hinder us from progressing.
Yeah.
So we will move on, and we have already co-create. We have a lot of issues that we will deal with, especially in this sustainable development goal. But then our recent challenge, or the challenge has been there for more than a decade now of security, and now it has intensified. People have been kidnapped in their homes, going to market, going to meeting, and even last week, a lot of people gather in Kaduna to meet on security issues, and then from nowhere, gunmen went and they scatter the meeting. So now a lot of people are talking of insecurity in Nigeria, and so that the service chief must be replaced. And this NSAS movement that moved the youth. So we are taking it as a challenge. We are applying for a grant from Voice through Oxfam, and Anne, Megan, Pat, and so we met with the leader, and there is a green light, and we are putting up the application. And so we will address mostly youth, synthesized youth, and then advocate, so that they will check what is happening, and they will be like stakeholders, and we are going to empower them through the grant, and then they are going to be like a watchdog to check what is happening in their community, to be security of themselves. We are going to encourage education, and because in most part of Nigeria, especially in the Northeast, now over 10 years, the children are cut off with being educated. And those, that part, I'm from there, there are almost 70-something% uneducated, especially among girl child. But we are going to synthesize them and teach them the basic things to do, and even to contribute in media, and empower them in many ways. And there is poverty in the land, and a lot of issues, but we divide ourselves. There are some who are working on the peace, promote peace and inclusive society for sustainable development. There are some that will participate in good governance, and then transparency and accountability. And there are some of our co-creation group who are working on the strategy of how to address this insecurity, Boko Haram, and Fulani herdsmen, the kidnapping. And so we have the people, and if we sensitize them and if we empower them, then we are going to do it. And the COVID, it brought a lot of challenges. There are people who are hungry and sick, and then this COVID brought a lot of things. The sexually violent against women, girls, being marginalized, and some as young as 11, their parents are giving them out for marriage, and even married women are being lured into this sexual violence just to get money or just to get something to eat. So we are going to address that, and we are going to face our government, local government, because there are a lot of money there. And even our former governors, they are there in the Senate, but they are still getting millions of naira every month in their state. So
Yes.
we are going to be bold and address this issue, and we are capable of doing it because we have a lot of people who will do it. I'm going home in April or May and stay there for 6 months. And so we are going to face all these issues. So this is briefly what our plan in Nigeria will be, and a lot of others. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rebecca. That is, you are facing some of the biggest challenges in the world, and you're doing it, as you said, boldly, because the resources are there. And so getting them, and it's very inspiring. Thank you. Okay, who is next? I don't see a hand up, but somebody put their hand up and contribute to this creation here. Okay, then I'm going to start putting people on the spot. I'm going to call on Meg Kinghorn, who just sent a message and who I was with earlier today. Is there any lessons from the group in the Netherlands that you were facilitating that you could contribute to our conversation today, Meg?
Yeah, thanks, John. I was just going for raise my Zoom
I know,
hand.
I telepathically could feel you doing that.
So thanks. And hey, everybody, I'm Meg Kinghorn. I'm an independent consultant based outside of Washington, D.C. And I'm currently working on 2 projects. One that John was graciously a participant in, which is doing lessons harvesting from a project in 6 different countries in how to do inclusive governance and social inclusion in post-conflict affected settings of Somalia, Afghanistan, Sudan, etc. And the other is writing a manual for the IRC in how to do collaborative design. So part of the shift the power into partnering and even shifting toward direct donor funding. So 2 things that are really jumping out to me, insights from those 2 projects is, it boils down to, one of them is that the power of relationship. We talk about process being so powerful, and within that it's relationship and it's connecting people. And that's what I think the movement and calls like this is doing so importantly, is bringing together the country, the regions, the global movement of people committed to community-led development. And then the other one I'm just really starting to crystallize on, somebody that's worked in capacity development for decades, is that now we talk about capacity sharing. Well, I'm starting to think we really need to talk about capacity recognition.
Yes.
Because to recognize not only the capacities that the communities and the national actors have, but then what are the capacities that we have that aren't recognized as capabilities, right? We tend to define what they are and when are they capable enough, and to really inventory, like courage. We never talk about that, as Dr. Rebecca was saying, endurance. I mean, these are capabilities that I think we really need to recognize. And while this COVID has been so difficult for so many people, particularly the national actors, it's also an opportunity, right? Because as you started to say, John, development has fundamentally changed and there's an opening there. And what can we do now to make sure that it doesn't go back to the way it was, that it really influences? And so I would put out a challenge to the Secretariat of the movement to really look at documenting the tremendous, the national CSOs and the communities themselves have really stepped up to the plate during this time. to document that, put it out there, and to really publicize it, and to really start to shift at that capacity recognition, I think would be tremendous. So that's my contribution. Thanks.
That's great. You know, there's been a number, Meg, of initiatives. Interaction had one, we had one to document a lot of that. But then the question is, who cares? I mean, where's the demand, or how do we get it out there? That, as you mentioned, the getting it out there part. I loved Arthur's radio and TV show. That's an awesome step forward. But any thoughts anyone has to, you know, I just, you know, I see these PBS stories where they go and they cover a great story, but they aren't covering this one. So I'm just really eager to find our ways into getting bigger and bigger microphones, frankly, so that we can get and distilling it in a way that could make the evening news in London or in Tokyo or in Washington, or places where, you know, where the transformation of donor behavior needs to happen.
John, this is Pat Krabacher.
Hey, Pat.
Hey, I have a comment along the lines of what Annette brought up and you were just saying, and Meg, her conversation. I'll tell you, I think individual conversations are the most powerful way. And I'll tell you, I went to Haiti in January. We had a meeting with a very large international NGO. You would all recognize the name. And we were on the north coast of Haiti. And we were talking about what our sort of community-led development group in Haiti was doing. And the budget that they had from our denomination was only $350,000 in a year. And we told him everything that was happening. And he looked at me and he said, "How can you do that for that kind of money?" I said, "Because it's local people who are leading it, who are doing the work, and there's such efficiency in that. And the billions that's currently being spent could really radically change lives instead of the current business models that are being used." So I think having those kind of conversations with stakeholders around the world at different levels within government and funding organizations, that's the way to go.
Yep.
That's my experience in Haiti anyway.
Patricia, thank you. That's okay, everybody, make your list of individual conversations, because that is, you know, when the Hunger Project started, that's the only thing we did. I set up a little folding table in Palmer Square when I was working for Princeton, and had individual conversations with people, some of whom then went on to devote their whole career to international development. So it's a very powerful step, but you got to kind of make the list and go after folks. Okay, hands up or just speak up. Anyone? So we've not heard from East Africa, and we've not heard from Asia. Jude, hi. Speak. Yes, hi, Jude.
I'm all right. How are you doing, Dr. John? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I joined very late because I lost one of my strong members in the church this morning, and we are all there. So I just want to give a brief comment on the situation right now in Liberia regarding MCLD.
Yes.
We also have our work plan. We have been having a series of meetings with we have meeting with the LANSO and the Apollo, include with Madam Anne, who have been a very good instrumental to make sure that the MCLD in Liberia move forward. And we are looking forward in 2021 project for sustainable development goal to help our people here to have a good life, and we are engaging with the community leaders, the community leaders, we get the local farms in various countries. But we are believing and hoping for the true implementation of it as we proceed, as we look for more and advocate for that to make this project to become a reality for a good life venture and sustainable development goal in Nigeria. So I think MCLD, we are moving forward and we look forward as time goes on, we are going to be hard in our nation, and we are also trying to incorporate other NGOs to be part of what we are doing. So I looking forward, and we believe in that things will work out for us to move forward here in Nigeria, forward here in Nigeria. So I thought so far as we continue the meeting.
Great, Jude. Jude, your country is one that has overcome such enormous challenges in recent history, and just we wish you all the best going forward. My wish for you is we're going to get you a better internet connection. Pascal, help Jude get a better internet connection, okay? Because we need to hear your voice loud and clear. Okay, thank you, Jude. Who else has something, a perspective they can contribute, a accomplishment from 2020 they can build on?
May I come in, John?
Yes, please, Tashome.
Okay, just to do to represent East Africa, and I will present the case for Ethiopia.
Wonderful.
For the last 1 year in 2020, we were trying to have our own chapter, and we have few NGOs trying to do it as a network. Maybe just as a context, in Ethiopia there are lots of NGO networks, NGOs, and lots of them. So people are tired of networks. When you say, this is another network, they such on different issues. So we strategized to mainstream. We identified one in which our organization are. Remember, a network, a very old network, like more than 4 decades, network of NGOs, both local and international. We approached that organization and strategized to mainstream community-led development strategy advocacy into that. We first did in one of the group, that is Good Governance Forum, and through that, within this bigger network, like more than 400 NGOs, international NGOs. Now, through that sub-forum, we crafted, there was a meeting to craft an advocacy agenda for 2021. And we crafted our own agenda, like, we used different tactics, different wordings, and localizing SDGs became very acceptable to many organizations, and it is shortlisted as a for advocacy to be exposed by the bigger network, like so many. So from these two will be identified. There is funding, there is everything for that. So I have every hope that localizing SDGs with focus on like policy coordination at local level, and also like budget monitoring and expenditure tracking, and all, to promote such issues is then. So there are a lot of I think strategies to do to promote or to take forward the community-led development agenda. So this is the experience I want to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Tashome. And it sounds like I know that network. I visited it in the past. It's a very powerful network. And,
CRD.
yeah, CRD. It's if they mainstream this and take it on under the banner of localizing the SDGs, I think it'll go far. And you know, we're all praying for peace in your country right now, and localization is one of the best pathways to peace, I think. So good luck, and it's so good to see you again, Shomei.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's good to be seen again.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, who has something more to contribute to this conversation? It's getting very rich.
John, I'm happy to talk from the national chapter perspective. So 2020 was an incredible year. And when COVID hit, you know, we all like panicked and thought, oh, well, that's going to really put a dent in our chapter work. And instead, it sort of really accelerated the chapter work. And everybody who's here, who's from a chapter, it's just unbelievable what you all managed to do, even in the face of a pandemic. And we also have many people that participate who they're not in a country with a chapter, but they are movement chapter members in their countries. And so all of those people are really valued as well. We had new chapters this year. You've already heard from several people. We haven't heard from Uganda because there's no one here from Uganda, but Uganda had a banner year influencing both the national development plan for Uganda for the next 5 years, having the opportunity to comment on the draft plan and have their comments taken into the plan. And Uganda's annual budget is $8 billion a year, and they're, you know, this is a great way to influence how that budget is allocated. And also, it would, for the next 5 years, be following up on that plan to advocate for the community-led pieces of that plan. Also, we're able to comment on the help develop a new national nutrition strategy for Uganda and link it to the plan, and then also link to the ministry that will be implementing the parts of the plan that are most relevant to community-led development. So that chapter is really goes gangbusters as well. You've heard in other meetings about Benin and all the incredible things that are going on in Benin, so much adaptation that happened as a result of COVID. Zambia and other chapters as well. So more power to all the chapters. And from the national point of view, and so, I mean, if I was just coming to this meeting the first time, I would think like, well, do the national chapters really accomplish anything? But they really do accomplish a lot of things, a lot of tangible things, and they maximize their place at the national level with close connections to grassroots voices to make sure those grassroots voices are influencing things that happen in the national level, which then in turn supports community-led development. So it's quite a dynamic position. And as you've heard, it looks different in every country. And true to the principles of community-led development, all of our chapters are self-directed, self-organizing, and figuring out what makes sense. Like in Ethiopia, they did it one way. In Nigeria, they did it another way. Every chapter is unique in that way. So it's been a great learning opportunity for all of us. And one of the things that's been extra fun this year is meetings across chapters, because often people who are working in chapters, they're very experts on their own countries, but sometimes they don't have a lot of experience with what is going on in other countries. So the learning across chapters of the peers, every time we have a movement leadership chapter call, it's just like having all the best professors in the room of community-led development, and the conversation just goes. And anyone who would like to join those calls, future leaders, aspiring leaders, people who are interested in leadership or just want to be with that group, you are welcome to join. We had 3 calls this year, which is leading me to one more thing I want to say, which is that this year we developed a strategy, a national chapter strategy, and we launched our strategy in September. And our strategy has 4 components: continued mobilization of some chapters, move to concentration phase, it's called, for some chapters as they mature, cross-chapter learning tools and support, which has really taken off, which includes the monthly leadership meetings, as well as other activities, like we had a community-led development, nutrition, food security in the time of COVID gathering recently that was just like world-class in terms of the content. And then the fourth part of the strategy is partnership development within and across chapters and countries. And those partnerships include, for example, in Benin, a partnership between the chapter and the ministries of health and the ministries of decentralization and many other stakeholders. And then we're also trying to develop partnerships that involve some funding, because funding is always desperately needed. And that's what's happening in Nigeria. And we have a group in Sierra Leone that just got selected to go to the second stage of co-creation process with USAID. More power to them. It's a youth group that wrote their own proposal and applied to USAID and got selected to go up to the next level. And they don't even own a computer. So really, it's unbelievable what people are capable of. And the smallest amount of support, technical support, connections, recognition and solidarity, the world could explode in the best way with more and more of this. It's all that we can do to keep up with the demand that we have to help with those things at this point. So 2021 will be more of the rollout of the chapter strategy. And I encourage anyone who wants to learn more about it or get more involved in any way, no matter what your interest is, leadership, some technical issue, community-led development, monitoring and evaluation, whatever your interest is, we have a place for you to be really active in our national chapters. And also calling out Edwin John, I had a great call with you the other day, talking about neighborhoodocracy in India and how that can link to the movement as well. So thanks everyone, and thanks for an incredible year, and really looking forward to the next year. And we're not going to go back to the old ways before COVID. We're going to push this forward and make it be the new world of development that everyone has been talking about. So I'll stop.
Fabulous, Anne. Now, just for everyone to be clear, she's talking about a call that isn't this call, but often happens earlier in the month. I don't know if you've scheduled one for January or not.
Yes, they are scheduled. They're on the calendar now. So those movement leader calls, yes, that
Great.
we have every month.
Great. So if you want to be on those movement leader calls, contact Anne, or we'll get you a link to the sign up. I'll just share that link out with everybody with the report from this call. Thank you, Anne. That was terrific. I wanted to call. I'm sorry. Who's that?
John, this is Pat. Really quick.
Okay.
One of my first experiences as Dr. Rebecca was pulling together the Nigeria chapter was Anne was leading a collaborative effort across West Africa with input from the Pascal and the other chapters. And it was so amazing. We were working on a collaborative proposal that would have gone into USAID. And we actually had the proposal well thought out, ready to flesh it out finally. And then COVID lockdowns hit, and USAID closed the opportunity or delayed it. So, I mean, that was a very powerful experience. So I'm hoping that we and other chapters can do more of that, kind of putting your strengths together and addressing larger, regional issues.
Yep, I could not agree more. That is my dream, to build these consortia that really pull the money out of the people who have the money and put it to, as powerful as you were saying, how much can be done with $350,000, which, that's like the paperclip budget of some of these agencies. So that.
But Anne worked really hard to get that to happen, and that was my first exposure to community-led development, and it was really, really positive. It takes work, but that was very important, I think.
That's great. Thank you. I'd like to call on somebody who knew. Elisa, would you be willing to introduce yourself and your organization? I don't know if you're still on or connected. Elisa Sabatini is on the West Coast where it's quite early, and she, I guess she's not there. Okay, I was hoping she would introduce herself. She chairs a wonderful organization that's been looking at joining. Who else would like to contribute to this conversation? Anyone? Edwin John, we've not heard from Asia on this call.
You muted.
You're muted, Edwin.
Okay.
Hi there. Now we see you and hear you.
Okay, fine. Okay, yeah. Very happy to be associated with this community-led development. And we have been doing something similar.
Yep. We
call it neighborocracy. And we have various dimensions of it.
Yep.
One is neighborhood-based politics, community-led politics.
Right.
We want to project a new way of running politics. Then community-led business and various things like that. And one thing that I want to mention today is involving children in community-led development action.
Yes.
We do this by organizing neighborhood-based children's parliaments, inclusive neighborhood parliaments of children. And then almost everybody becomes a minister there. And especially we bring in this, and our children's parliaments are small sized. Small sized means only 30 children in a parliament. And children used to be inclusively organized like that, territory wise. And then we federate these ministers and these parliaments at various levels. And then we are also trying for a world parliament of children, federate them at various levels.
Wow.
So that children have an organized voice. Some 2 or 3 days back, they had the first swearing in ceremony for the provisional parliament, world parliament of children. So one child from Africa is one of the prime ministers, and another child of Indian origin, but in the US, is another prime minister.
Wow.
So the beginning. So if you could all join here, encouraging your children, the children themselves will have their own, child-led or community-led development action.
Right.
Thank you.
Edwin, that's wonderful. I know I met some kids from Youth Parliament in Indonesia that World Vision had organized. And they were able to take their youth spokespeople all the way up to the national parliament to get a hearing. And it's, I think nobody even thinks of children as a marginalized group, but boy, are they marginalized when it comes to voice in policymaking. I saw some people advocating change the voting age to 6, because kids do have a voice, should have a voice. And so I really congratulate you on that. Thank you. Other contributors to this conversation. We're nearing the end of our period. I know my colleagues and I will just have a really, Sai. Hi, I see your hand up, Sai.
Oh, hi. I'm coordinator of the Humanitarian Development Nexus Working Group, but I'm going to speak about the experience of the Philippine community-based organization that I work with through this Humanitarian Development Nexus Working Group, which is called the eCopit BSIGMO. So they're empowering people with disabilities in one of the remote areas in the Philippines. And what was happening there is, so these parents of people with disabilities and some community workers, they've been very active, but their work have been constrained by local government officials. And so one important lesson from that is that community-led development or humanitarian development nexus programming won't be completely successful if communities are divided and if there is no support from the local government. And what's happening is it's being politicized. So local government officials, they think that, so far from my experience in the Philippines, they think that their authority is being undermined. Their legitimacy is being undermined because the work that they're supposed to do is being done by the community-based organizations. So I think I would like to bring up the importance of social cohesion. And I remember the social cohesion tool that's introduced by the Catholic Relief Services. And so I think 2021, that's maybe we could, focus also on include social cohesion as part of the community-led development efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Sai. Okay, well, seeing no more hands up, I think we're going to bring this to a close. We will post the recording, we will distill the notes, and I'm so inspired by what people see as right in front of them to achieve starting in the new year. Sarah will be cracking the whip on everyone to get your blog posts and video clips into her for this big 11 days of activism for CLD. I'm going to put on the little share thing again. We'll be posting shortly a webpage about this next big global meeting, the big event on January 27th. It's not just a short call. It's going to start at 8 in the morning Eastern time and go for almost 3 hours in 3 different sessions. It'll have breaks. It'll be a wonderful event. We're finalizing all the approvals needed to have that event happen, but you'll be getting information in the newsletter. Also, I really want to beg all of you to get really every person that you can, let me throw this up again, to go to our website and go to our subscribe page and get on the mailing list for the Shift the Power newsletter. That is currently going out to more than 5,000 people every month. These aren't the 500 of us who participate in chapters. These are all the people we hope to influence. So get your friends, your policymakers, your ward bosses, your mayors to all subscribe to this newsletter. We're also hoping to get versions of this newsletter in Spanish and French in 2021. And of course, I love the idea that we're going to have the tools in Oriya. That's Orisha is one of my favorite places on earth. Glad to hear about that. But please get people. I'd love to see the numbers reading about our progress jump up to, say, 10,000 or so in the next month or two. So please send people to that. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. I invite everyone to turn on their cameras and turn on their mics and say goodbye to everybody. So thank you all for a wonderful 2020. Have wonderful holidays.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Hey,
Bye.
Samuel, great to see you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank
Bye,
you all.
everyone.
Great to see you all. Happy holidays. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays, everyone. Goodbye.
Holidays, everyone.
Thank you.
Ya, Malama Aisha da Susan, kuna nan?
Na'am, Mama. Lafiya kalau ma.
Yes,
Bye. Happy Xmas to everyone.
Thank
Happy
you.
celebration,
Thank you.
Christmas
Thank you.
celebration.
Bye bye.
Sana?
Yeah, bye. Anu mama, ya kike.
Lafiya garau.